So what it do? This is page 25, second paragraph. For those of y'all who watched the last video, y'all should already know where I'm at. So keep up. I'm finna go even deeper with it. Okay, let's go and go. No time for review. I'ma slow it down for y'all though, you know. Alright, here we go. Well, the first tragedy to note about the effects of this class education on the blacks is that it further reinforced colonialism's policy of perpetual disunity in Africa and elsewhere. The line dividing these black upper and middle classes from the black masses and their basic aspirations is more rigidly drawn, and this superior class mentality, becoming even more crystallized since independence, is an almost certain guarantee of future uprisings on a scale never seen. The second great tragedy is in the nature of what is called education. It is mainly rote learning, the ability to memorize phrases, concepts, and other required data. Thinking is neither required nor expected. Critical analysis and evaluation of subject matter are not required, but the ability to absorb and recall is required. The brilliant scholar, then, is one who can readily quote authorities and remember well his bibliographical sources. So we now have a generation of black scholars who will continue to amaze students by mouthing the doctrines and viewpoints of their white teachers, like so many robots without minds of their own. Typical. Yet study under white teachers and professors should be most rewarding, and it can be if you do not enter white institutions with a head like an empty pitcher going to a fountain to be filled. I was safe and richly rewarded during my studies in white universities only because I happened not to be so naive that I expected the viewpoints of the conquerors to be the same as those of the conquered on matters relating to our place in the world. Real talk, my throat is throbbing for some damn reason. Okay. Elsewhere, I have emphasized by repetition that some of the most fruitful sources for study came quite unintentionally from white scholars. A case in point was at Oxford. The course was the history of colonialism in Africa. The presence of 2 or 3 blacks in the class, while obviously uncomfortable to some, was generally ignored. For Africans studied were of long-standing and integral part of an imperial system. They were not planned for Africans at all, but for the future administrators of the empire in Africa. So Professor Madden was pointing out in his lecture how difficult and even impossible it was to rule Africans in view of their wild and most primitive system of democracy. For just as fast as African kings or chiefs undertook to carry out British laws which displeased the people would remove them from office. Therefore, this primitive African democracy had to be destroyed before the British system of indirect rule could be effective. Some deep shit. But I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna keep going just for y'all. You know, I got sinuses fucking with me and shit. My throat's throbbing for some damn reason. My nose starting to go crazy. I think I burnt too many incense. It's starting to fuck with me. But I'm gonna keep going just for y'all though. The point here is that these sneering remarks by an eminent British historian revealed to me an entirely new field of research. That lecture led me into the study of one of the most significant developments in the entire history of the black race. An ancient system of democracy existing before Greece evolved from a continent-wide constitution that governed the whole African people as a single race. This all-important finding was arrived at by comparative studies of African customary laws in every region of the continent. The Europeans were confronted with a real social democracy that existed long before the terms of socialism and democracy were invented in the West. For Dr. Madden, it was savage because the people were the real rulers, in fact, and not merely in theory. The field studies. Insofar as the study of African history is concerned, I regard direct investigation in the field, in Africa, as of the highest importance. This field work should be undertaken only after thoroughgoing research and written in other documentary sources. The study of available written sources, their evaluation, and the mounting of archaeological records are all the first major phase of African research, and I would say a prerequisite for field work. The field work was mainly concerned with oral history. I had noted in my study of sources of noted historians that many who decried oral traditions as unreliable never failed to use it themselves to supplement or give added validity to their work. The fact is that neither written nor unwritten records should be accepted as true without verification. Although 2 years were devoted to the field work, the ground cover was possible only because of careful advanced planning and the scheduling of areas and groups in each country months ahead of my arrival. These had to be hinterland or bush country, generally far away from the westernized urban centers. For our quest was not for the long-standing tradition of either Islam or Christianity in Africa, but for the more ancient tradition of Africa itself. So vast and untapped is the real history of the African race that I myself have only scratched the surface of what is yet to be done. Some of the areas to be explored by future historians are set forth in pages which follow this chapter. A major research project should not be undertaken by a single individual. That was my mistake, hence the 16 years of work that a research team of 8 or 10 persons might have completed in 3 or 4. The kind of well-organized research team required for in-depth studies may be difficult to promote because of our pitiful go-it-alone individualism. A research project such as mine should have had a team of highly trained experts from the fields of history, archaeology, anthropology, medicine, linguistics, tropical agriculture, political science, etc. The widely ranging scope of the study minus a team was possible only because of the interest and active support of certain African governments and the unforgettable help of the people in every region and country. For all kinds of help was needed. As indicated above, much had been prearranged. The United States Department of State had notified the American Embassy in each country that I was coming, requesting our ambassadors to give any requested assistance excepting the Sudan, where embassy officials appeared to be under some kind of fear. The embassies everywhere went all out to be helpful. The embassies had the important work of making the advance arrangements for trips into the interior through the appropriate ministries of each country. Thus, in turn, had to contact the various provincial governors or district commissioners who had to make a living in conference arrangements with village chiefs, elders, the keepers of oral traditions, and other specified groups. The amount of time all this advanced work saved for the study itself is obvious. I'm going to stop right there because the video finna end. I'm going to come back at y'all again. It's page 27. Still talking about the field studies. Be back at y'all again and shit.